USA Pest Pros. The next tool that you'll find in the back of your truck is the web pole. This is such a valuable tool. Many times when you go to a customer's home, they don't really get to see the value of our service, especially if you went to do this service and they weren't home. Many times people will come home and say, well, I know Fox Pest Control came out to my property. Let's see how well they did. The first thing they're going to look for is how many spider webs that they have. So this is what we use to remove them. So this is your web head. Comes off pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It extends to about 18 feet. There's a couple of things I'll talk to you about. Before I get to that, as far as making sure that you know how to use this, you just loosen it and tighten it. Right? There's a mechanism in there that keeps it tight. And so for the height that you want, just twist it counterclockwise, extend it all the way out. Twist it clockwise, it's locked into place. You can do a good job. This one has a number of poles. We have this one as well. So it gets pretty long, gets you up to where you usually need to be. I use this to remove wasp nests, spider webs, mud dauber nests, things like that. Pretty common tool. When you're going around the exterior of somebody's home, this is something that you do all the time. So even on service calls, it wouldn't be a bad idea to at least walk around with this tool and pick up any webs that are hanging around. It'll only take you a couple of minutes, but customers will see that and see value in it. One of the things that I'll tell you, these break pretty easily. Either via the top because we're pushing too hard, or we hit a corner somewhere, or this first pull. Many people will use this one first to get the first height that they need. For me, this is the last pull that I use. I only use this in the very high reach areas because if you pull this too hard, it'll actually pull out, and you can't, once it pulls out, you can't put it back in there again and make it work. Also, it's the weakest, it's the skinniest, it's the thinnest, it's gonna break apart pretty easily. So what I'd rather you do is use this last and focus from the bottom up. So I usually start my day off by putting it about this far out. This usually gets me pretty much where I need it to go, and then beyond that, I'll adjust it how I need to, using the bottom one first. And I can last for a long time with one web pole. So it's a good common practice to use. Other than that, it's a pretty standard piece of equipment, not too complicated to use, but a ton of value. Please use that at every house that you go to. It's effective. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use the web pole here as far as being able to show value to a customer. This is your web pole. It's pretty straightforward. The goal here is to wipe down the spider webs and anything else that might be, whether it be a wasp nest or anything else that might be a pest related concern. And so when you look at the front of this house, it's actually not too bad. A common thing that a lot of people, at least in the past, that a lot of people will say, well, let's compromise on time. I don't see a lot of spider webs. I'm not gonna break out my web pole. I'm not gonna wipe down any webs. The fact of the matter is, every time you go to a home, you should pull this out and make sure that you have these webs knocked down. This is what customers see. It's so significant. One of the challenges that we have with spiders is that because their legs are so long, collecting enough product from our application around the base of the home generally isn't going to be enough to kill them. And so you'll do an application, you wipe down all those spider webs, 3 to 4 days later, you might have some webs come back again. But the value for a customer is to say, hey, I had 3 or 4 days of absolutely no spider webs, and then over the next 3 months, gradually one at a time, I saw less. Another purpose for this, and whether it works or not, it doesn't really matter, but this is how I communicate to customers. I'll wipe down their egg sacs. And so if you can look up at the very top here, just to the right of that peak, you'll see an egg sac. That little tan color right there, that's full of thousands of spider eggs, right? You give them the chance to hatch, where are they going to put their web? Pretty much anywhere up there that they want to. And so if you take care of it now by knocking it down and removing it, and then that'll be less spider webs on your next seasonal service. And so keeping ahead of it by wiping the spider webs every time, generally over a long period of time, will cut down the number of spiders and the webs that they have around their home. With the pole, be careful with it. It's very breakable, especially up here. You don't want to rub on it too hard. You really don't need to. Spider webs will come off pretty easily. Do not use this skinny part of the pole as your number one go-to. If it's stretched out all the way, it's going to break down here pretty easily. So the only time that I use this fully is when I fully extend it to get to the very top portions of it. Unluckily for this one, I'm going to have to get my ladder to go wipe down that egg sac just because it's too high for this pull. But I'm going to pull it out from the bottom section here. I'm going to get it about halfway. Again, it's not going to break that way, at least for the end of it. And it's about all I really need, because I can stretch out and move around, and I can still do the job that I need to without having to shrink it up or extend it very often. So when you're doing your application, but when you're wiping down your spider webs, make sure that you're looking for places where they could be. This is a perfect example of where spider webs generally will be. Right here is where they're going to want their web to be, because insects will fly through that area, get caught in that. So just take some time and wipe that down, and you'll get faster at it as you go. But any kind of a corner or joint is going to be a place where there's going to be spider webs. So I'm just going to drag this. It tends to go easier if you take it and you drag it like this rather than push it, because that's just it's gonna hit the edge of things, and you're gonna not paint off or chip things. Been there, I've done that. So dragging it along tends to be a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Gonna touch up these little holes here just to make sure we don't have anything starting in there. Hit around these edges here. And a rule of thumb for me when it comes to wiping down spider webs is the amount of time that it takes me to spray is also the amount of time that it takes me to wipe down spider webs. And so you can get pretty fast at it. There's quite a bit up here. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. One of the main points of focus for you should be the porch area. So when somebody comes home or somebody opens the door and they notice spider webs, they're going to be pretty frustrated. Guess who they're going to call? You're going to call us, and you're going to say, get back out here and wipe down my spider webs. So if you're going to spend a lot of time, it's going to be the place where people see it the most. So right here on the inside. People will come out with their deck chairs and they just relax out here, and they're going to start looking around. They're going to see spider webs, and they're going to give us a call, unless you get them knocked down. And then they'll say something like, hey, I like Fox Pest Control. I've seen a lot less spider webs and egg sacs along my property. Makes me feel just a little bit more comfortable in my home. Hit around the light fixtures. Check around your windows. Things like this. Oops. And don't do that. Don't hit the posts. But that was all it took. Didn't take me very long, but I feel like I did a good job. I don't see any webs anywhere. We'll just continue on around the exterior of the house, and we'll wipe these spider webs away. Ooh, look at this big one. Things that we're looking for, being able to wipe these things away, getting them off there, and then getting it onto the ground where they can't get up on the house very well. Another good thing about a web pull is when you're actually out there doing it, one of the things that we include in our HPP is wasps. This is an opportunity to get your head looking up, your eyes looking up, so that if you see wasps flying in and out of a crack or a crevice in somebody's wall, you can identify that pretty quick and do a treatment now, instead of waiting until the customer hears it in their wall void, or they start to come into their home, or they build a big nest that you have to come out for a service call. So this gets your eyes up in the air, where generally you'll find those wasp nests in those locations. So it's just a twofold purpose here: for inspection, removing spider webs, and help you find more wasp activity. Got some egg sacs over here. Going down that. So hitting inside corners will be pretty important. Around the windows, underneath these areas here. Looks pretty good inside of door frames, things like that. You'll see this in glass sliding doors on the back deck all the time. One of the things that you'll see is when you're going around the outside of a house, when somebody mows the lawn, they usually kick grass into the spider webs underneath the edge of the siding here. So doing a quick run underneath here will help improve the overall image of the home and at least be noticeable, saying, hey, something's changed. Looks like Fox Pest Control came out here. See, this is a perfect example right through here. You see that, John? I'm just going to give it a twisting motion. Get that grass and the spider webs out of there. Keep in mind as well that when spiders try to stay warm for the winter time, they spend a lot of their time right here along the siding. There's heat that escapes from the inside along that sill plate, and they just hang out there. I've done applications underneath there in the winter time, and they'll bungee cord out once I spray them, and there's still snow on the ground. Right? So that's just a crack and crevice application, but that's where a lot of spiders are going to be. Wipe them away, do an application up underneath there. Again, less spiders. It's a good service for our customers.